Projects don't fall apart when things are calm. They fall apart when pressure shows up, when the deadlines change, when people disagree, when priorities shift. That's when pressure comes up. And that is the time when your clarity, your communication, and your adaptability need to shine through. Hi everyone, my name is Ola. We have been going through a series of how you can transform your work into experience that counts, whether you are a first-time project manager or you are trying to currently transition into project management. This is going to help you. If you've missed any of our previous videos, please go ahead, go back. It's in a playlist and you can watch it in your own time. If you've been enjoying this series, please go ahead and click the like button, share it with someone that needs to hear it, and subscribe so that we can help more people with the information that we have. All right, all of that is done. Let's go into today's video. Pressure reveals how well you really know your projects. Here are the 3 things that pressure will test you on, and you need to pass. Do you know what really matters? What are the priorities on your project? Do you know who actually cares about that project? Who are the people that care the most about the project? And do you know who decides? If there's a decision to be made, who makes that decision? Are you clear? You should be as a project manager, but under pressure, with people speaking from different sides with their own agenda, you need to always keep those things at the back of your mind, or rather in the forefront of everything that you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to remind people what they may be forgetting, and you're going to have to align everybody back to what is important, who has the final say, and who are the people that we must involve in some of the decision making that will be required. Right. So this is why you need to know who your stakeholders are early. Don't wait till your project is in trouble before you start understanding who your stakeholders are. Ideally, all of that should be clearly spelled out from the beginning of the project. But if peradventure you inherit a project that it wasn't spelled out, that's one of the things you want to do at the very beginning. Who needs to be responsible, who needs to be accountable, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to be kept informed. But also, you want to know their level of power on the project as well. Who has power here? Who can make the project really difficult for everyone, for instance, right? Who has interest? Who is really interested? Let me give you an example. Let's give an example. Your organization is responsible for planning the Olympics. Who has power? The chairman of the planning committee will have a lot of power. The government that has commissioned your organization to plan the Olympics will have a lot of power. Who has a lot of interest? They're the community that will be affected by the things, the infrastructure that you're building to support the Olympics will have very, very high interest in what you're doing. Third parties, subcontractors, people that might benefit from those contracts will have a lot of interest in what you're doing as well, to name just a few. Who needs to be kept close? Who do you just need to make sure that they are well informed, they know what's happening, they're on board with what's happening? Who are those people that you need to keep close? I'll give the example of the globals. If you've not watched out the other videos, go and watch it. The system upgrade I was doing. We already knew that the first time around we did it, it didn't quite work well because the people that we were doing the upgrade for didn't adopt the new system. We're always going back to the old system because we didn't make it wasn't made easy for them to transition, right? So this time around, we keep them close. They're the users, they're the end users. So you want to keep the end users of your product close. They need to be informed. They need to even be part of the testing so that at the end, when it's all said and done, they will use the system because they now understand it. You don't need a fancy model, but you don't actually need to create anything fancy, but you just need to have We call it the power interest grid. Create your power interest grid and understand who the players are where. Not because anybody is more important than the other person, but because concerning that particular project, that particular initiative, everybody's interest and power in it is different. And you have to treat them accordingly. And if you don't know whose opinion matters the most, you will get confused and you might make some poor decisions or carry the wrong people along in the decision making process. Which brings me to my next point. Now you need to adapt how you communicate when there's pressure. But you don't just adapt on the fly. You would have already defined your communication parameters at the beginning of the project or at the point at which you took over the project. So you already know how you're going to communicate. You knew that at the beginning you probably would be having meetings once a week. You knew that as the project progresses, you might change it to twice a week or every other day in the week, or you change it to daily stand-ups. Okay. Then you would have, if you've done your governance right, you also have a hierarchy. You know the information that needs to go to who in the governance structure at what time. Okay, you know what kind of information, what escalations need to go to who. When things are going calmly, you can make the updates light and all the details sit in the documentation. When things are tense, you still want to keep the updates to what is required. What do people need to know to move things forward? Where are we today? What are the blockers? What are we doing? Right? And you want to probably, if there's a tense situation, you probably want to keep the meetings to happen more often than they were happening before. Why? So that everybody can come together, highlight their issues, and you can solve or get people can get the solutions that they need as quickly as possible. When you're doing your communication, you need to check. So who needs the detail? Because your stakeholders are different. Who needs a lot of detail? Who just want to know this is a problem and this is what we're doing about it? Who just needs reassurance, and who just needs a decision. They just want to know what the decision is. Maybe you have a developing team that they just need to know whether we're creating this feature or we're not creating this feature. They just want a decision. Okay. When things are tense, some people just want to be reassured that things are moving in the right direction. Case in point, Olympics, your community, they want to be reassured that they're not going to lose their power. They're not going to lose their water supply. They need a reassurance, even if a contractor has failed for whatever reason, right? And then some people who needs the detail. You need the detail, and sometimes your senior stakeholders may need a level of detail. They want to know what the issue is, what you've done about it, and what the impact of what you've done is, if there's something else down the road, or do we need to make some strategic decisions? Yeah, right? So you can see that the level of communication for each set of individuals will be different, right? So here's another thing I learned. You can't really run away from conflict. Conflict usually means that priorities are competing, there are risks that are unclear, and decisions have been avoided. Now, your job as a project manager or the person working in the project management space is to surface those conflicts, those issues early, and present it and get the answers quickly so that they do not become bigger issues later on. You're getting the right people in the room. You don't shy away from it. You surface it. You make your team talk about it so that we can find solutions very quickly and avoid worse situations further down the line. And you also make sure that the right decision makers are brought along in the journey. Usually on projects, it's never just one person that's making the decision. There's usually a quorum of two or three players that make the decision. That brings me to the next point. I know I said there's a quorum, but ultimately there's one person that's accountable for whatever decision is made. One person. The quorum meets, they agree, but one person is accountable. It's usually the sponsor in many situations, or the head of a board that's accountable, right? Be clear on who is accountable for the decision, which brings us to decision making. And that we're going to talk about in our next video. Like I said, in our community, we go into more detail about this. We simulate lots of scenarios where these kind of things happen, and you learn how to deal with each of these scenarios, so that when you go into the marketplace of work, you are better project managers for it. If you're interested in joining our community, the link is in the description below. And it's been helping you. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, also share the information. I'll see you in the next video.